It's draft week. We got the latest draft intel. There's a name that we haven't mentioned at all, like even less than Tijan Salan last year, that I guess now is possibly going to be selected by Charlotte. Plus another mock draft. You know how Doug gets down on draft week especially. It's going to be a good one, folks. Locked On Hornets ahead.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's here, baby. It's almost here. It's draft week, more so than it's draft day, but only a couple of days away before we find out what the Hornets are going to do in the selection process. Locked On Hornets, thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast. That does include YouTube. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can also listen to the other podcast, Locked On NBA, Matt Moore, Hayes alongside him. You got a trio over there doing good stuff, breaking out the NBA Finals. Maybe we can even give our thoughts on it after what happened last night. I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. back in the normal time after filling in for Kyle last week. So I'm right back there. Wes and Walker, 12 to 3, 92.7 FM. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. How are you feeling, Doug? Week of the draft. It's been hard to get a grip on this thing. There's been rumors swirling about. It feels maybe a little more smokescreeny than I can remember other drafts, or at least more rumors, like reports, smoke screens. I don't know what to do with all the information I'm getting. That's what this week feels like more so, or this draft feels like more so than I feel like it's gone the last couple of years.
Well, no, I would disagree. I think it's just as smokescreeny. I think that because
I'm just living in the moment. Look, it's radio. We try to exaggerate for the people in the present. Maybe I'm trying to do that.
No, I think that if you look at last year, everyone thought they were going to go for, center help, or they were going to go for the older wing who could help them contribute immediately, and then they went completely in a different direction. So that has everyone thrown off this season. Do they react against the Tijan Salan raw project pick and get somebody that's more ready now? Do they trade back? And then if you go back, obviously, to Brandon Miller-Scoot, it was all smokescreen all the time. We just had no idea what they were going to do there until the very last moments. And even, even in the very last moments,
Shams doing his best. That was Shams doing his best.
That's what I'm saying. It was crazy.
Yeah. But it felt like the Hornets always wanted Brandon Miller, and the writing was on the wall to a certain degree. And then Shams was like, I don't know. Hey, check out FanDuel odds, guys. It just changed because of this drop that I had. No, we always wanted Scoot. But no, you're right. There's always the rumors swirling about. I think the Ace Bailey stuff makes all of this interesting. And because of us talking about how many options are on the table for the Hornets, I think that's what makes it so interesting. Maybe there are more pathways, which invites more rumors, and that's why I feel this way, because you could trade down, wouldn't be surprised about it at all. It's the most likely trade down scenario in a draft that we've had in a while. They could draft Con Knueppel, Trey Johnson, or VJ Edgecombe, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. They could trade up to secure drafting VJ Edgecombe, and I would understand it. So I don't know if it's not a 33% split between those three options of stand pat, trade down, trade up, but all of them are very realistic. And so here we have the latest intel. Before I get to the latest intel, do you want to save Phony, Gavoni, and Jeremy for a little bit later in the show, or do you want to do the draft intel stuff right now? You tell me.
I live in the present. I mean,
right.
This is the freshest mock draft possible. Just released a few hours ago from ESPN.com, their first draft week mock draft, and they have the Philadelphia 76ers at 3, selecting VJ Edgecombe, so they pass up on Ace Bailey. What did the Hornets do? Do they take Ace Bailey with the 4th pick and figure it out later? No, they do not. According to Gavoni, they take Con Knueppel out of Duke, and but there are also some other interesting things here. Should Edgecombe come off the board at number 3, Charlotte will likely be choosing between trade down scenarios or picking among Knueppel, Jeremiah Fears.
Oh, there's the name.
Bailey, and Trey Johnson. The fact that Fears and Bailey have not worked out for the Hornets doesn't appear to be a significant hindrance in their decision-making process. Rival teams believe the Hornets will ultimately prioritize Knueppel's strong perimeter shooting, as well as a strong fit with the likes of LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller.
Okay. So what's funny is we've had these discussions trying to prep for a possible Tijon Salon scenario. Who's the guy we haven't talked about that we need to be discussing? We even had a blind spots draft just last week. Colin Murray Boyles, maybe. Could you go trade back and get a Thomas Sorber? Do they fall in love with a big guy? I don't know. All of these names we're just throwing out. Nick Clifford, we're just throwing them out there. The name that we've discussed the least on this pod, it is Jeremiah Fears. In terms of who the Hornets could select, we know him. He's not hiding like Tijon Salon was. Like that, we know about Jeremiah Fears. We know he's a smaller guard at Oklahoma. He's a paint touch. His film is exciting. Like he can get to the rack whenever he wants to. The shooting isn't there. He's a fun player, but we've never talked about him alongside LaMelo. I feel like that's the pick. Despite hiding in plain sight, that's the one that would have me the most surprised. I think you and I even had it as like the biggest shock scenario either 2 weeks ago. Like, hey, we just don't even bring him up, right? But look, Phony Gavoni, whatever you want, like it's here now. It's the first time, the Monday of draft week, the first time that we've ever seen any sort of whatever link between Jeremiah Fears and the Charlotte Hornets.
If we see Fears' name come up on the little ticker as the Hornets making that selection, it could mean a couple of things. It could mean that they have a trade in the works, and they're working with maybe Utah. Utah wants to move up to make sure they get Fears, that they've successfully smokescreen and say, hey, we could take anybody. They're it's the Batman scene where Michael Keaton breaks a glass and says, let's get crazy, like let's get nuts. They just make everybody think they're going to take everyone, and then they trick Utah into trading up one spot. Or it means that they're going to work on a trade for LaMelo Ball, that they do want to move on at the point guard position, and they've selected their point guard for the future. Or it could mean they're holding on to LaMelo Ball. They're drafting Fears regardless of whether he wants to be there or not. And in that scenario, I would say, I'm not sure they know what they're doing. Or maybe they have like a 10 to 15 year horizon when they're thinking about drafting, and they have no real regard for using all of the available tools to compete now. I don't know. But that would be a very surprising name. I hope it wouldn't be the scenario that we always run into, which is like, this can't be it, right? This has got to mean it's another move, and it just ends up not being.
Oh yeah, I love it. That's my favorite. That's an underrated part of the discourse for draft season or trade season. Oh, they're definitely going to make another move. That it actually is that. But no, I'll always remember calling the Jalen Duren trade. Like, I know the Hornets too well to think that they're just going to roll with Jalen Duren as their pick. And sure enough, they trade him 5 minutes later. SGA, who just won everything in the world after capping the season off of the Finals MVP last night. Yeah, they drafted him and they traded him 5 minutes after. It could be that. It could be that they trade Jeremiah Fears or whoever. Moving past Fears, I'm with you on all that, by the way. There are guards that I think can play well with LaMelo. I think a lot of the reason I think guards can play well with LaMelo is because LaMelo is so good. Like, I think he's a lot more malleable than people give him credit for. I just think we haven't had anybody that we can trust with the ball in his hands. I don't like Fears alongside LaMelo. I think that's different than my idea for Scoot 2 years ago, for my idea for what Dylan Harper would be if we didn't kind of lock him into the second pick already. That's what I would feel about Jeremiah Fears. What else you got?
And to me, he's a risky pick. I mean, even if
for sure.
Because, I mean, look, he's 6'4", 6'5" wingspan, body's still developing, shot 28% from three on almost 4 attempts. There's a lot of question marks there. So if you're telling me that the Hornets want to move on from LaMelo Ball, who does have a lot of question marks in terms of his health, there's no doubt about that. But I got no question marks about his ability to shoot three-pointers. I've got no question marks about his height relative to the rest of the guards in the league. Like, it just would be a huge dice roll. I just don't buy it. I'm more
right.
Like, if I'm buying anything, I'm buying that they're just trying to make people think they're going to do anything and then move down. And there was some reporting from Mike Lissette of Queen City News, and he said in a tweet on June 19th, "My understanding is Hornets management wants VJ to help transform their defense. However, they understand there's a very strong chance he's off the board. Should that happen, the gossip I'm hearing is that they'd want to trade down. Best case scenario, one of the three guys remaining. Either it's Yakichonis, it's Con Knueppel, it's Trey Johnson." That makes a lot of sense to me, particularly when you wrap in the news that broke over the weekend that we haven't had a chance to talk about it either, that Josh Green is had shoulder surgery to address some instability and is unknown in terms of his timeline about when he's going to return. So now they have a big gaping hole, even more so than they already had at the wing position.
Well, and the good news is all of these guys that you could justify taking at 4, they're all shooting guards. Con Knueppel,
Exactly.
VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson. So it's easy to go with one of those 3.
So if they
It's a
took
seamless
Fears
fit.
with all of that context,
know.
if they took Fears
I know.
and they decided to keep him, it would be insanity.
Yeah. Even Ace Bailey, you could take and then just have Brandon play the 2 and Ace play the 3 in your, future lineup, whatever that looks like with all your first round picks. Fears, it for me, it just doesn't work as much watching Fears compared to Harper, compared to Scoot, some of these other guards that I've advocated for. Last thing before we move on, Ace Bailey, it feels like the 76ers are in the driver's seat when it comes to trade up scenarios to go get Ace, but it feels like Charlotte isn't too far behind that, right? I know they're just a pick behind Philly, but if Philly just stands at 3 and then takes whoever, not Ace Bailey, I do wonder if then the asking price comes down a little bit for your Washingtons, for your New Orleans or Brooklyn, if they feel like they don't want to give up what it would take to move up to 3, but they will give up what it would take to go to number 4. I do wonder if there's an enticing enough package for the Hornets right there. If Ace Bailey is still on the board when the Hornets are on the clock, then do those teams feel more comfortable with the package it would take to move up to 4 than 3? That's a very real possibility too. It's all here, Doug. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't.
My prediction is that either Philly takes Ace Bailey and says, we'll figure it out in the offseason if we want to trade him. If we get him here, if we finally get a meeting with him and it seems like we can make it work, then we'll just go into the season with that. And if not, we'll move him then. Or some other team trades up, takes Ace Bailey at 3, and the Hornets take VJ Edgecombe at 4. I mean, I know it's a boring outcome, but I think it's, to me, the most likely outcome.
This episode is brought to you by Olipop. It's a new kind of soda, and it's made for people who love the classic taste of soda, but want something that supports their health. With just 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can, Olipop is reimagining soda in a way that's better for your gut. Traditional sodas are loaded with sugar, like 39 grams in a regular Coke or 44 grams in an orange Fanta. Olipop flips that script with just a fraction of the sugar, no artificial sweeteners, gut-friendly ingredients. Also, OliSmart, it's a gut-friendly ingredient, and it's a blend to support digestive and overall health. It's soda that tastes like the real thing, but actually does something good for your body. I've gravitated to a new flavor. Lemon lime is still my favorite, but the orange cream soda too, God, man, they're hitting on a bunch of different flavors, and there's a billion to choose from. Like, there's so many different flavors to choose from. So get a free can of Olipop. Just buy any 2 cans in store, and they'll reimburse you for 1. Head to drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA to claim your free can, and then find Olipop near you. That's drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Are you still sticking with the vintage cola, Olipop, or have you tried any of the other flavors? Vintage cola for you? Keeping it simple?
I've tried them all. I'm an explorer. I tried them all. But yeah, I gravitate back towards the vintage cola. And when I eventually refill my stock, it's going to be vintage cola all the way. I think if the Hornets don't take vintage cola with the 4th pick, it's going to be a disaster.
Man, but not as much upside. Not as much upside as some of these other flavors, though. Look, it's Con Knueppel of this draft if you take vintage cola. I'm just telling you. But strawberries and cream, that's Ace Bailey. Wow. Okay, that could be amazing. Or, could be a little dicey, but it hits.
By the way, I'm not going to be mad if the Hornets take Con Knueppel. At this point, if VJ goes 3 and they take Con Knueppel at 4, I've just, in what I've watched from Con Knueppel, and he's been doing the media rounds, what I hear from this kid, with the Josh Green injury, with the East being wide open, particularly after what happened last night with Tyrese Halliburton popping the Achilles. East seems wide open right now. Kevin Durant stays out west. I mean, like, if you're telling me you're going to take Con Knueppel and he can come in and fill in for Josh Green and start immediately, I'm not going to necessarily argue with that, because my perspective is not, hey, you must find a superstar with the 4th overall selection. My perspective is, hey, you've got LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, and if you're serious about committing to those two players, then get them to the playoffs as soon as possible. Con Knueppel helps you do that. VJ Edgecombe can help you do that. And so I would be fine with both of those picks.
Tyrese Halliburton goes down with an Achilles injury last night. Yeah. Just all sorts of sucky.
Brutal.
7 minutes into the game, and it felt like Tyrese was here for the moment. Hits 3 threes. What was it? Did he finish up with just those 9 points? I mean, still a deep three. Like, it looked like we were about to get a showdown between SGA, who was the only Thunder player playing well at that point, and Tyrese Halliburton. And that's how it should have been. And then he tries to explode downhill, pops it. Classic KD calf reverberating. Everybody can tell immediately what the injury is, especially with the reaction from Tyrese and then everybody circling around him. It just sucks, man. So Bill Simmons, I thought, put it well last night. It's the first championship run that it feels like the story is actually the team that lost. It feels like the Pacers this postseason is the team I'm going to think about more so than I'm going to think about the team that actually won the championship. And it ends in the weirdest way. The guy that we all geared up to go see if he was going to do it. Is he going to be the leader of a squad that pulls off, I think, the most improbable finals run that I would have seen had they completed this? I think it was more crazy than the 04 Pistons. I think it was crazier than the 11 Mavericks. Pick your team. I think it would have been crazier. And then he goes down with that Achilles injury. Okay. It's crazy that we also immediately move to next year and think, my God, how is it possible that the East is going to be worse? Like, it happened. It happened last night. Like, the Pacers, with all this continuity, it felt like, well, okay, maybe you can just slide them right into a healthy Cavs team, and those are going to be the two favorites. But now it's Cleveland as what has to be the clear favorite, in my opinion, and maybe some Knicks stuff there. And then it feels wide open, as you mentioned. It is, what do the Hornets do here? Like, is it crazy enough to think maybe the Hornets can make a little noise in a wide open East?
It's only crazy if this franchise decides not to try. Like, I get wanting to be patient. I understand conceptually, or philosophically why you would want to construct your team such that you could compete in the playoffs for multiple years instead of being 1 year flash in the pan. But if the Hornets pass up on an opportunity to compete in a weak Eastern Conference, if they say, no, we are in the second inning, we're on a 5-year plan, and then 5 years from now, the East is completely reloaded, young players blossom, and now the Hornets are, it just feels like the Hornets are always competing at the wrong times and then not competing at the wrong times.
Yeah.
And I just wish they would just understand the context of what is happening here. Damian Lillard, probably out for the entire year. Tatum, out. Tyrese out, and Kevin Durant Phoenix decides to move him to Houston, so Miami misses out on an opportunity. That was one of the teams that was on his preferred list. So yeah, the East loses talent, and then the Knicks situation, yeah, they've got a lot of talent, but now they still have a head coach. So you don't know how all of that's going to work out. That they could hire Taylor Jenkins and that not mesh right, and it all be a disaster. So yeah, it would be inconceivable to me for the Hornets not to look at this whole draft and offseason as an opportunity to, hey, let's see if we can get a few more guys to fill out this roster and actually go for this thing with a core set of players in LaMelo, Miles, Brandon. Like, there's opportunities to trade with Washington, to pick up a shooter from them, to trade with Brooklyn and pick up Cam Johnson. Like, there are opportunities if the Hornets are brave enough to actually finally compete in a situation where you could compete.
So this brings me back to the Desmond Bane point, because I do wonder that the case to be made for the Hornets trading for Desmond Bane, you start to break down that trade. Okay, 4 first-round picks, it's a monster haul, but so many people are quick to point out that one of those first round picks was likely to take on the KCP contract. Okay, so now you dwindle that down to 3 first round picks in exchange for Desmond Bane, and everything else is just salary filler, right? If you're talking about the Hornets, then there isn't a contract like KCP's. You do the Miles Bridges, who is worth on the court what his value is, right? The contract is not bad for Miles, and it's descending. And so either way, does it make you rethink at all the Hornets maybe making that trade for Desmond Bane, especially if it only costs 3 first? Because we could do this timeline thing if you wanted to, that he doesn't fit the timeline. But he's also only 26 years old. He plays a position that I do think is actually, he's going to age better with the shooting ability. He's like one of the best shooters in the league, and that's not an exaggeration. He's also a good defender and will help your backcourt immediately. He slides into a position of need as we're talking about all of these shooting guards in the draft. And if we're talking about the Hornets taking one of those risks, then this would have lined up pretty well. Now, hindsight 2020 is Tyrese getting hurt, but one player goes down and now it's wide open. No, man, it was wide open. Another team comes down now closer to the pack. It's pretty wide open before then. So when we're talking about these big moves, we bring up a Cam Johnson. A lot of people are discussing it because they have the 8th pick. Maybe the Hornets move down to 8. They collect Cam Johnson. But I think Cam Johnson's going to call for more than just the 4th overall selection. So you get 4 salary filler, Cam 8. The Hornets are going to have to add what? At least another first. I would say 2. I really do think Brooklyn's going to be asking for that sort of thing. And if not, hey, great negotiating. But then if you start adding on the 4th and then the Nets profit 2 first-round picks, well, now you're not all that far away from Desmond. So, like, if Cam is the guy, then fine. Like, that makes some sense. But to me, it's just maybe we go back and think about that Desmond Bane trade a little differently. Yeah, with the hindsight 2020 thing being a benefit to us. But if we're going to do it for Cam and then lose 2 second-round picks, maybe it wouldn't have been all that crazy to go for Desmond Bane.
I don't think it makes me rethink it, because I still have the same opinion, which is that you haven't seen enough of this current roster to make that kind of significant risk. Like, Orlando knew enough about the Paolo-Franz combo to understand, like, if these guys remain healthy, it's not maybe we can compete in the playoffs. It's no, we had one of the best defenses in the entire NBA before some of these injuries started to compound, and then also we're going to add Jalen Suggs back to this equation as well. So they just knew a lot more than the Hornets know right now. So it doesn't make me rethink that. I think the same thing, which is that they should take smaller, calculated risks to build some depth and give this LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges combination, if you want to invest in that, really invest in it. Make sure that you give this team every opportunity to get to the playoffs, particularly in an Eastern Conference now that looks significantly weaker. Get them that experience. You don't have to, that doesn't mean you have to take a giant, like, 4-pick swing. It could mean you make multiple deals that bring in multiple depth pieces so that you're not at the end of the season relying on guys that you're plucking out of the G League again.
So, and do you think, so basically, I guess what I'm trying to pin it down to, do you think Cam Johnson is the line? Because you brought up, hey, you got to go all in. We're being hard. You don't be scared, right? You can't act scared, but don't give up the 4. That's a little, all right, now I'm scared, but don't be too scared. So Cam Johnson, if they profit 2 first from the Hornets, that's still a big haul that you're giving up.
If it's the Miami first and the Dallas first, it's not, those aren't as bad.
So fair. I'm with you. Like, I actually, right. That's where I think, like, I think trying to thread the needle on how we talk about the Desmond Bane trade to how we to demand that the Hornets take a risk and go all in on a wide open East. I think that's a thin line, like, to cross over into one and say Orlando knows what they have, which is 100% true. Cam, like, yeah, for sure, you could have given those 2 first to Memphis and then gotten rid of 1, because remember, one of those contracts was to take on picks was to take on KCP. So now, would you have done it for Desmond if it only costs 3 and you could have given the Miami and Dallas? Miami might be really valuable, by the way. That might be valuable as the original pick. I'm just trying to figure out, like, what kind of risk we would be comfortable taking if we wouldn't be comfortable giving up the 3 first for Desmond and then we don't have much cap space, so it's like, it's tough for me to figure out, man.
Well, it's, do you make some moves around the draft to prepare yourself for a possible run at Miles Turner? Can you get your books in a position to absorb that? Because if you're Indiana, now with this Tyrese Halliburton injury situation, you might be looking at a gap year next year. And if you're going to be in a gap year, does Indiana really want to pay big bucks for Miles Turner? He might be available. Do you go to the Cavs, who still need to get they're still in apron territory? Do you look at Jared Allen? Do you look at Isaac Okoro? I mean, there are just so many opportunities and routes that the Hornets can take. I'm not really even advocating for one over another. The only thing I'm advocating is, Hornets, please try. Please try everything possible to get this thing into compete mode, because
not everything possible, right? Like, not within reason, I guess, is what you're asking.
Yeah, well, try every route possible. Yeah, exactly. I think I've been pretty clear on this. Like, it doesn't mean go nuclear and rip all your assets away to make this thing happen, because you don't have enough information. But, do anything at this point, because I don't think the commitment has been there in previous seasons, because the communication and the reality on the ground has been, we're going to take our time and evaluate, and we're not ready to compete right now. Well, it doesn't matter if you're ready or not. The Eastern Conference is asking Washington, is going to be asking all of these Eastern Conference teams that didn't make the playoffs, the Bulls. They're going to be looking to compete. And the Hornets can either get in on that, or they can just find themselves in Chicago again with frowny faces because they didn't win the lottery again.
All right, I got more thoughts coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you can start actually building wealth. They give you surprising insights. When you start using Monarch, you can realize just how much you're spending on food delivery, especially me. They're speaking right to me on that. And then you can budget smarter after learning that and then save more. Plus, it provides all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Okay. The way that this is a negative outcome is the situation we were in 3 years ago. If the East is wide open, does that mean that everybody has the green light to go compete? Which means everybody is either somewhat successful or they reach the 50th percentile outcome on what they were hoping to achieve this past offseason, and eventually somewhere finish in like the 6, 7, 8 range. And the Hornets are in the situation they were a few years ago, where, Doug, they actually are somewhere above 500, right? They were, I think, 4 games above 500 3 years ago. And they were also in the play-in tournament, and they eventually didn't make the playoffs. So do we have a situation developing like that? I think the way that doesn't happen is that East was actually good, right? So the records wouldn't be as high, but are the records like so close together that everybody has the green light to go compete, except for your Clevelands and your New Yorks and your Orlandos, and then like Atlanta, Miami, even Philadelphia. God knows what's going to happen with them. Chicago, as you mentioned. I just wonder, is Charlotte going to make the play-in because they're going to be exactly like one of those teams? And then, God forbid, we see another 30-point blowout. I hope that doesn't happen after the Tyrese Halliburton injury last night.
Well, I think the whole organization and what remains of the organization, because, Plotkin, who's one of the new owners, he was there for that time. So he understands, what was fundamentally wrong with those teams was that they were built to score as much as possible but not defend at all. And so there's been a complete counter reaction to that since rehiring Steve Clifford, to find players and mentality such that you could survive a play-in game without getting blown out by 30 points. So I think it would be different Maybe they don't win 40-plus games. Maybe you're right that the records are worse. But I think they would be in a better position. I think they already are. I mean, they're adding guys like Moussa Diabate, Grant Williams, players that would help you win those kind of games on top of a great LaMelo Ball performance, on top of an hopefully improved Brandon Miller. All of that's going to mean better things, I think, for the Hornets in that one game for your life scenario. But it would require continuing to build up this roster and not just saying, well, no, we think, another year of LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, that all of that's going to work itself out. No, it's like continuing to construct a roster such that they could survive that scenario.
No, I don't know what kind of outside help they're going to go after. They're going to select somebody in this draft unless they make a surprising move, trading it for somebody else as a veteran and then just get out altogether. I don't think that's going to happen. But maybe you just rely on internal improvement with somebody that hasn't been on the team very long, like a Trey Mann. In fact, NBA teams now can begin negotiating with their own free agents after the league year ends with the championship. NBA teams, again, now beginning negotiating with their own free agents. This includes Trey Mann, who's a restricted free agent for Charlotte, Seth Curry, UFA, Taj Gibson, unrestricted free agent as well. So the Trey Mann one is the interesting one. With the injury history, he's been working out with the Hornets. We've seen him. He's been involved social media-wise. Like I think the Hornets put some clips out of him. I know he's working out with some of the guys over at Queens, and we've seen that before. So, yeah, just an update there on what maybe the Hornets could be doing here with their own guys on the roster. You ready for some mock drafts? You got something else for us, or did you just want to use the Phony Gavoni and Jeremy Woo one?
I only promised one a day, and I fulfilled that promise with 58. We've got a couple more to go here. Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll have something for the second round. The final mock draft will be on the second round. So, yeah, and they've got second round opportunities too. At 33 and 34, you can get very good players there to help you defensively, particularly I think at the center position. I think one of these centers will, cross our fingers here and hope that Kalkbrenner or Reynaud or someone can be there that can help them round out their center rotation. And you've got Mark Williams sort of floating in this, like, do they utilize, maybe they're not going to get a first rounder, but do they utilize Mark Williams as an opportunity to restructure this roster or restructure their books such that they could make a little bit more of a run in free agency than they would have initially thought? And the other thing I would say is that as much as I think they've been committed to adding more physicality and adding players that are defensively focused, do they retain Josh Okogie? There's sort of a non-guarantee there, and they're obviously waiting till the draft because you don't want to guarantee it before the draft because that is an opportunity to trade Okogie to someone else that may want to drop that money off the books. But they do need to find, whether it's in this draft and VJ Edgecombe or someone in the offseason, they do need to continue to find players that are going to help transform this defense because you want Brandon and LaMelo to improve defensively. I think they're going to make improvements, but you still need players that are fundamentally focused on the defensive end. And the loss of Josh Green for however long to begin this season, for all of the criticisms that I've laid on him about his offensive aggressiveness, there's no doubt that defensively he helped the team last season. And so they've got to figure that out as well.
It's the nicest thing you've ever said by leaps and bounds about Josh Green.
If that defensive player could, get to the rim, take more than 2 shots, score more than 2 points, that would be fantastic as well.
There you go. We had to end on that. You have any final thoughts before we end the show? What you saw over this postseason, Thunder, Pacers, Game 7. What are some Doug Branson thoughts?
Yeah, I want to be Indiana. I want to be Oklahoma City. I want to use every opportunity, every tool available to improve my team. Indiana decided to win when everyone said they should lose. They just decided to keep winning for years and years and years and built solidarity and built playoff experience, even if they got bounced in the first round and the second round. They built playoff experience over and over and built a culture of winning. I would like Charlotte to do the same thing. And 5 years from now, when Luka Doncic is winning his 3rd straight title for the LA Lakers, if we look back and say, damn, the NBA was in a moment of parity where small markets can win and now they're not, and the Hornets did not take advantage of one single opportunity to be involved in that party, it'll be a shame.
Drive it back, baby. Hopefully we can bring the Hornets to the promised land somehow, some way. And it starts with what happens on Wednesday. We got draft week here. It's here, folks. We got a few more mock drafts to get to as well. 58 of 61. My God, I never thought I'd see 261 staring right back at me on the bullet point. That will do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Locked On NBA. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.